What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here. Sheets will be here later for live, but will not be here this morning. But I did want to start off with a big congrats to Sheets. He won the the $5 shot for 50,000 last night. Big win. Obviously, Sheets is just destroying things, and good for him. I'd love to see it. We've been on fire here at TrueDFS, and great to see Sheets take down another big one. We've been either taking him down or coming in the top 5 over and over again. I hope you guys can take some time to join us. We do, like I said, we're adding a ton of tools, which everybody who's already a member will be grandfathered into, but we will have to be raising pricing pretty soon. So I did want to give everybody a heads up. Now would be a good time to check out the packages. We do have the trial for $10.99 if you haven't used that yet for the ultimate. But we're going to have some new package options as well. But I'm just warning everybody that we're probably going to go up a little bit just because we're adding all these tools, which is costing us a bunch. So we're going to have to figure that out. But anyway, let's start off with, and I didn't even realize I built the lineups yet, but we're going to go through this slate game by game. And yeah, again, just a huge shout out to Sheets. And hopefully we can follow in his footsteps tonight. So these are sort of meaningless first builds. Like there's some of the projections have to even out and all that. I'm going to make a list as we go through of players that I think should be projected a little bit higher. As of right now, it's hard to know. We have Giannis as doubtful, Lillard as questionable for this game in Washington. They played limited minutes last night. So I think it's really hard to analyze a game like Milwaukee at Washington right now. This might be the game we do everything with, or it might be somewhat uninteresting if somehow Giannis and Lillard both play. I guess they would be in play, but again, we have the limited minutes to worry about. So just a little bit of a concern overall in that Milwaukee-Washington game. Nothing I want to make any commitments to this early in the day. Washington side, yeah, I think that it'll be more appealing to me if once we figure out what's happened to Milwaukee. We do have a little Chris Middleton revenge. I'm curious how many minutes they let him play. Can't be fun being traded from a team that you won a title with in Milwaukee to Washington. Maybe we give Chris Middleton a little boost. So I'm just going to make a note of Middleton to keep an eye on it. He's really cheap. It's just a matter of if we think he can get the minutes, really. It's not even a bad matchup for him, to be honest with you. And you also have the Kuzma, I can't really call it revenge on the other side. He got put in a great situation, but I think Middleton and Kuzma both might be in play anyway today. So, but other than that, I certainly don't mind the Sar chalk. I think there's other ways to go, but it's fair enough. Everything seems to be like nothing I have a major disagreement on. I do think I might end up with more Middleton and Kuzma, depending on who's playing for Milwaukee, but really hard to analyze that one early in the day. Another one that's hard to analyze early in the day, we saw McBride go completely nuts last night, and we had a lot of guys out. So we just don't know what's going to happen. The second end of a back-to-back, even some of the guys who played last night, even let's just say OG and Josh Hart played, I still think there's a chance somebody else might sit. The thing is, it is Cleveland. They need to start getting some wins against, good teams. I know it's traveling on a back-to-back, but I feel like this game you could bet on. It's like bet on the pace-up spot. Cleveland plays fast. I think there's some more we can do in this game than what we're seeing, but it's really hard to assess without Anunoby and Hart. If one or both of those guys are out, we go right back to McBride, and I think we probably go back to Precious, depending on who plays. But another one that we're going to need some injury information. Good news is it's in the first set of games, so we should be good there. On the Cleveland side, and I love what DraftKings does, by the way, where they make the Friday slates end at 8:30 Eastern. I know people on the East Coast probably really appreciate it, but even me, like I want to have a night. I want to have a date night with my girlfriend. I want to go see my kids. Sometimes when you're stuck until 7:30 or 10:30 for people on the East Coast, it's really hard to make much planning around, especially playing NBA, which is so difficult as it is. So anyway, this is a spot where I'm going to bump up everybody from the Cleveland side. I just think in competitive games, they all have a little more ceiling than they get credit for. And I'm changing the median score, but it still is going to affect the overall. And I like Jared Allen a little more than the field. So I'm actually immediately just going to bump these guys up a little bit. I'm not going to bump up everybody that I'm not going to get all the guys bumped up. Like I mentioned Middleton and Kuzma already, but I didn't bump them up yet. So I'm gonna wait a little bit before I bump up too many more. But I did want to make sure I bump up the Cleveland guys, and I will bump up the New York guys. I just need to get an idea of who's playing before we do that. Memphis and Orlando. On the Memphis side, boy, I tell you what, I had some very high finishing lineups with Ja in them. So Ja really, really killed me last night. The foul trouble and just the lack of production I was not ready for, and it burned me. It is what it is. Nobody else I want to go out of my nobody I really want to go out of my way to get. If I end up with some Vince Williams, and we'll see if Vince Williams is out, if that opens up anything else out for maybe Gigi Jackson. But as of right now, I'm sort of content to sort of like be somewhat with the fieldish. My guess is these value plays are going to disappear later today as we get better value, just the way things go in the NBA, and I assume we'll have better value later in the day. So. How many Cleveland would you use max, 2 or 3? It's impossible to answer a question like that, Travis. Right now, we don't even know who's playing for other teams. You might end up with like 10 other guys who look like the best value ever. But if the slate locked right now, I would be fine having 3 guys from Cleveland. But I don't think that, like, I'm not going out of my way to do it. I probably would. I think 1 or 2 is the right answer at the moment. And I think by the end of the day, if we get more value, I think we could talk about maybe playing more than that. On the Orlando side, we have Wendell Carter Jr. Again, 4,300. He started last night over Batatse. I'm just double checking because I know that game sort of fell by the wayside a little bit for me because I was less interested in the play than most people. He put up 29. That's very solid. If we think the minutes can be replicated, I think we just leave it for right now. I changed his projection down a tiny bit just to you have to make a couple changes when you start some things. And I felt more comfortable with that one. Another big plus matchup for the Paolo Banchero Franz Wagner. As I mentioned all day yesterday, I wanted to try to get to one of Paolo or Franz. Did not get to enough of it. I probably leave Franz Paolo's because he's got a pretty healthy projection, but I think I'm going to put Franz a little bit higher, and maybe they take turns. Maybe tonight is the Franz game. It's a pace up spot against Memphis. They're playing at home. I feel like it's a spot where, you know what, probably it's worth it to try and get them both bumped up a little bit, just with the nature of this exact matchup. Cole Anthony, we'll see what happens with him today. I'm not sure what to do with the other guys yet, but we'll have more clarity on that at 6. Miami in Toronto. Okay, so I actually like Bam a little bit better than the field does tonight. I don't think you have to do it, but I was interested when I saw that Tyler Hero was going to be virtually unowned. This is a very easy spot for me just to bump him up a little bit. I think there's a plenty of ceiling here. We know there's a range of outcomes, but I think in a close game, I just think Hero at low ownership when Bam's getting more than twice the ownership is kind of interesting. So that's the only change that I'm making as of right now. And it's going to depend a little bit on Jovic, what ends up happening with him. So that's obviously what we'd be waiting on. And of course, there's the news we don't know that we're waiting on yet. But definitely not the worst spot in the world for Miami. A little bit surprised to see them favorite, to be honest with you here. Really like the Raptors tonight myself. I think they've actually looked pretty good. This price is too cheap on Quickly. I agree with the projection. You're going to get to plenty of them anyway. I really like Quickly. Other than that, I think Scotty Barnes is always in play, but like the only reason I'd be playing him is it's a small slate and I'd be trying to get different with some Scotty Barnes. But as of right now, I'm going to leave the projections the same, wait to see sort of how things shake out after shoot around, and then I'll make my adjustments, and then I will update our site. And then, everybody in the Discord, they know I do it like up to the minute. And I'll even go in after lock and do some late swap shows in the Discord. Another fun thing that we've been it's been fairly effective, but we're trying to perfect it. We're still working on getting it all down. We'll have plenty of late swap shows in general. Just trying to master it still. All right, Detroit and San Antonio, great matchup for Duren. I think he's obviously the one I have the most interest in. I think the second half of this year, I want to start betting a little bit higher on Asar. Again, not a huge change I'm making in his projection, only half a point. But if you bump that median up, it's gonna change things a little bit. So I'm gonna give him a little boost. Also, really like this matchup for Cade. I'm a little surprised not to be getting more of him. I guess it's just the lack of value. I'm gonna leave the other projections the same, but definitely like this game as a game to target. You've got San Antonio on the back-to-back Detroit after their best first half of the year, and I can't even remember how long. It's been a long time. But I think this is a game you want to attack. It's really hard for me to get away from Fox. I even lowered his projection a little bit just to see. It's really hard to get away from him. With no Wemby, and I think Fox should probably be more expensive. I think all these guys should be. So you could see it's very San Antonio heavy, which is why I'm considering doing a boost to everybody on Detroit. And you get that game stack to work out the way you want. You got it made in the shade here. The one I do want to take a little shot on because is maybe even go a little bit higher on Keldon Johnson. I think he's got enough upside to where I'm willing to gamble there, and he's one of the few that's going to be low owned. Castle probably a better play on FanDuel, but yeah, I like this game. This is probably the game to target for the most part. I'm interested in a different way of targeting that New York Cleveland game, but again, this might all be for naught because if Milwaukee sits Giannis and Lillard, we're going to be very Milwaukee heavy, which means we'll probably end up with Washington on the other side. And it's going to come down to where you want to spend up elsewhere. So, but this game at first look was the one that was most interesting to me. New Orleans in Dallas. All right. So what are they going to let Zion do the second half of the year? We're going to keep him under the 28 minutes, most likely. He's still probably going to get there, especially against Dallas's front line right now. I like Alvarado, and I will go out of my way to be higher on Trey Murphy than the field in general. Just we know there's tons of upside for him. I love him as a basketball player, a little bit of a basketball crush on him. I still think his best days are in front of him. And if it's not Zion going completely nuts, I do think it'll be Trey Murphy, and I like him in this matchup especially. So it's not an ideal price. Again, it's hard. We don't have a ton of value right now, but we probably will. So I think Trey Murphy is a little bit of an interesting contrarian value play. I think that these projections are way off, way off, assuming that PJ Washington plays. I'm going to put PJ at 38. I don't usually make that giant of ones, and I like Kyrie way better than the field. I'm going to make him 48 for now. I might even make that a little bit higher later in the day. We have to also question, as a Laker fan, I've always felt like there was more to Max Christie, and I know he's developed into something. I think that there's more to him than maybe people realize. Look, in that role with LeBron, you just don't get the opportunity to really shine unless you're like the second option. I think Christie has some opportunity to shine a little bit more here, and he's another one that I want to just continually keep going above the field on. I know other guys missed games, but let me just go through his game log just real quick so I can just remind everybody how good exactly he's been since he's been with the Mavs. He's put up 30, 32, 31, 30, and 40, and he's projected at 26. You know what? I talked myself into it. We'll give him a low number at 29, and then he's going to look like a great play. I like doing this, though. Also totally fine with Clay. Good shooters matchups. Clay had some big games. Look, it's a boom or bust play in general. Clay had some nice games, though, towards the end, and I'm curious to see what they try and do with the lack of size that they have. So starting lineup would be interesting. The other question is, will Exum be allowed to play more? Do they even need him to play more because you've got Christie and Thompson now? It's an interesting question, and then Dinwiddie off the bench. But for me right now, those are the ones I'd get. So that's pretty much my sort of like first look thoughts on DraftKings. I'll run a build just for fun in a minute, but it's going to be pretty irrelevant, and we'll certainly have to wait till after shoot around for anything else. I'm going to take a quick look and see if anything happened, because usually it happens right as we come on, both in the morning and at night. Jovic is questionable. We already knew that as of earlier today. Okay. FanDuel does have the later games, so I thought I would touch on those. A little bit of a tougher slate on FanDuel. Let's do it like this. All right. So there's nobody I need to go out of my way to get from OKC. Jalen Williams with his brother on the other side. Cody, if I'm over the field, hey, no problem there. I think it makes perfect sense to me. I think Chet is going to be heavily in play the second half of the year. What do we have him at for minutes? 27.5. They're going to be careful with him, but I think it's going to be careful like under 28. I don't think they would have brought him back if he wasn't ready to go. They have no reason to do anything with him except for just like sort of let him roll. They basically already have their 1 seed wrapped up. I mean, it's not technically, but it's basically wrapped up. And then on the other side, you've got Clarkson, who looks like a terrific play. Kessler looks really good. And I think this projection is too low on John Collins. So I'm going to raise this one up to 36. And you just kind of hope that Utah can hang in there enough. Hopefully that the altitude has some effect. But Clarkson, Kessler, and Collins. And I think Collins and Markkanen are a little bit better plays than their projections say. The one thing that I want to point out, though, too, I love this Collier kid. I think he's really good. I'm not saying that right now. I'm not saying for DFS. I think we're going to be talking about this guy for a long time. I really buy into that Collier is the future for them. I think he might be between Markkanen, Collins, and Kessler. I don't know. Collier is. I've seen some things that make him look like he's going to be a real stud. Like I really think it's there. This guy, he also has pedigree. He was the best player in high school, like going into, I believe, his senior year. Had some issues, and stuff. And I just think that there's a lot of talent there. I really feel good about his game. The problem, as we run into every day with Utah, is they just have a lot of bodies they play. A lot of like decent-ish players that all amount to a lousy team. But like, I'm surprised they didn't do more at the deadline, because you're telling me somebody doesn't want Jordan Clarkson as a six man. You're telling me that you can't trade. Look, you can keep Collier and George as your backcourt. You can keep Markkanen. You can keep John Collins if you want to. But is that really your core? Or Kessler? You got to trade some of those guys. And I feel like they could have gotten a haul. They already have a million picks coming up. They'll be really good in like 2 years anyway. I'm just curious who ends up on this team long term. Minnesota and Houston. Nothing that's a priority for me of Minnesota. All I say is that when you see a game that Minnesota is an underdog in, you got to bump up Ant's projection. Just simple as that. There's way too much upside for him. All we've seen Ant do so far without the other front line, 48, 47, 55, 62, 69. And these are not all in cake matchups. And look, this is not a cake matchup either against Houston, but I like this. I like playing him. I like playing the studs, especially guys like Edwards, in games where they're underdogs or they're not supposed to win, because you're probably going to get their usage bumped up at like 5%, maybe a little bit higher in this case. Hard to measure because it's different for every stud, but I really do like him. I'm interested in this because I do not understand the projections here at all. Amen, they made an expensive price. His projection should still be closer to 45. There's no back-to-back that they're on. I don't see why it wouldn't be 45. Jalen Green, again, we still don't have any Fred VanVleet. Yeah, range of outcomes. Let's bump him up a little bit. I'll even bump up Şengün. I just think without VanVleet, I'm going to have more interest in these guys. Now, maybe I don't get to all of them because there's a lot of other plays on this slate on FanDuel that, you've got the 3 extra games. But I do think these projections seem a little soft on the Houston side. We'll see how they end up by the end of the day. I know Minnesota good defensively and everything, although not as good as they used to be. But I think we should be trying to go out of our way whenever we see Amen at low ownership, whenever we see Şengün at low ownership, but especially Amen and Jalen Green to some extent. Especially Amen, I think we want to just play at low ownership all the time. I just think it can't. If we played the first half of the year like that, we would be printing money. And we did. We just started doing it a little bit too late. And we are printing money, but it just was a little bit later than you want to. Anyway, Golden State and Sacramento. This is where a lot of the people are going, and I get it. Pods has been heavily involved. I like all of this. All I would say is I think Jimmy's probably, like, I'm bumping 0.012. It's not a huge bump to him. But I think this Pod's maybe a little bit aggressive. I like pods and everything, but I don't think we need to get like 80% of them. Maybe I would lower just a little bit if I ended up at 80, but I'll rerun it with the things that I changed, and we'll see. But right now, like, this seems like the spot you want to target on FanDuel. It's just a high pace. You've got Curry at 8,600. Draymond is reasonable. I don't know if I want that much Draymond. And I actually like Jimmy Butler a lot here. I think it's a good spot for Jimmy Butler. So going to be would be heavily involved on FanDuel with the Golden State and Sacramento. I'm just playing one big buy-in and then 50 in the lottery on FanDuel. Nothing fancy. Because of it, I think it's a nice idea to have a run back. You got a nice high total. I think Levine is my favorite, but I think any of the quote unquote big four or whatever the hell we want to call them, Levine, Monk, Sabonis, DeRozan, I would rank it Levine, Sabonis. I think I'd rank it Levine, Sabonis, Monk, DeRozan, but I think DeRozan at low ownership is kind of interesting. So those are sort of some overall thoughts. And again, I'm gonna have to rebuild all my stuff. If there's any questions in here, let's see. Let me rebuild this real quick and just sort of see where we're at for the first run, because I just did a random run before and I don't think anything's updated, but I'm guessing we're going to have some news throughout the day. And again, really appreciate what DraftKings does, and makes a huge difference. So let me just see. I just got a message saying DK is down from one of our site managers. Is that possible? Working for me. All right. Let's see what we got here. We'll run the sim based on the little changes we made, and see if we can get some significant over the field in some unusual spots. All right. And this will just be, again, it's a first look show. It's to give you an idea of the slate. We know in the NBA, a lot of things change. We do, we're going to play it out. We're going to play it hard. My favorite part of the NBA is the playoffs. I mean, not just for the fact that I like it, but I mean for DFS. I just think there's so many ways you can speculate and gain so much edge. It's so hard in the NBA during the regular season these days. You really got to be, you got to be the late swapper. And last night, what cost me everything was I decided to take a chance. When they announced LeBron still a game time decision, I took that as, okay, well, if he's out, I can crush the field because I can get way ahead. I can play Jordan Goodwin. I can play Austin Reeves, and all these guys will be lower owned than they should be. And it came back to bite me. And look, some of those lineups still cashed, but you weren't going to win anything with them because of it. So there you have it after the first one. See, because I bumped it up so much, that's what you're getting in Max Christie, and there's lack of value. I'm not saying I'm going to end up with 72% Max Christie, but I kind of like I mentioned, we have not seen, this is a good matchup, fourth fastest pace over the last 10 games in New Orleans, and we haven't seen him below 30 yet as a Mav. And PJ is still questionable. So I bumped these guys up healthily, and that's why I'm getting all of them. So that's something I don't mind. Also, it's a later game. We can adjust and sort of pivot along the way. So that's what I'd be getting as of right now. I appreciate all you guys. I know a lot of you guys are watching who are not site members. Please check out the site. Also, please give us the like, the thumbs up. We really appreciate it. We're doing these shows for free, and we really want to, we want to keep doing them for free. I know I've said that before, but like the truth is, if we don't get enough of the likes and the attention on the shows, then we won't. We'll just do them for our site for our members. But right now, we want to keep these going. Anyway, good luck to everybody. Another huge shout out to Sheets for another massive win. The guy is just a crusher, and hopefully you guys can join us and crush as well. Good luck, everybody.